Hey, high school literacy leaders. Welcome back to Curriculum Chats. This is DLC Foster Yankee, and in this video, I'll be discussing the sixth lesson in the third section of the Alexander Hamilton unit. Here are the goals, TEKS, and ELPs for this lesson. Students are writing responses that demonstrate understanding of multiple texts, including comparing primary and secondary sources with Hamilton, the musical. They will analyze how Miranda develops themes through characterization and plot in Hamilton, and also analyze how he develops complex yet believable characters through the historical and cultural settings and events depicted in the musical. The texts for this lesson are Hamilton the Revolution and also several letters between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. We have several tools, actually a bunch of tools that will be used in this lesson, including the Alexander Hamilton, Burr Hamilton note-taking tool, rewriting Hamilton and Burr letters handout, mentor sentence journal, vocabulary and context tool, vocabulary journal, a word map, and open and close word sorts. Also, the academic discussion reference guide and the Alexander Hamilton Section 3 question set. So, we should see a lot of tools from the literacy toolbox being utilized in this lesson. Okay, our overview is we will read and analyze the song Your Obedient Servant, excerpts from letters and Alexander Hamilton. We will make connections between the sources and Miranda's interpretation of the relationship between Hamilton and Burr and what led to Burr killing Hamilton. So now we'll take a closer look at the 4 activities that make up Lesson 6. In Activity 1, students review their completed Burr-Hamilton note-taking tool and think about the events and character choices that led to the duel according to the songs in the musical. A suggested support is to allow students to do this in small groups. In Activity 2, the class reads excerpts from a letter written by Aaron Burr to Alexander Hamilton and a letter from Charles D. Cooper to Philip Schuyler. As they read, they underline sentences that help them identify the central idea of the excerpts and circle unfamiliar words. Next, they go back to the unfamiliar words, define them using the dictionary or context clues, and add them to their vocabulary journal. And then students work in pairs or a small group to respond to one of the vocabulary exercises from the teaching notes. To conclude the activity, the class summarizes the letters by paying attention to the central idea and including details that support it. So, as for the purpose, the first letter is Aaron Burr's communication with Alexander Hamilton after he sees a letter written by Charles D. Cooper that had been published in the Albany Register. The second excerpt is from the letter that was published. Cooper details a conversation he overheard between Hamilton and Judge Kent, a Federalist and a judge of the New York Supreme Court, in which they call Burr a dangerous man who should not be trusted controlling the government. Suggested supports. If students need support determining the central idea of the excerpt, the teacher might ask the text-specific questions on the screen. For defining of unfamiliar words, the teacher might have students complete a word map or a copy of the vocabulary and context tool. Alternatively, the class could define the words together. This is a great opportunity to provide students with some choice as to how they complete those vocabulary exercises. Moving on to Activity 3, students are working in small groups to read an excerpt from the letter from Alexander Hamilton to Aaron Burr dated June 20th, 1804, on the Rewriting Hamilton and Burr Letters handout. This letter is Hamilton's response to Burr's letter requesting an acknowledgement or denial of Cooper's claims. While reading, they annotate the text, underlining sentences that help them figure out Hamilton's response to Burr's letter and circling unfamiliar words. Next, still working in their small groups, students go back to the unfamiliar words and define them using a vocabulary and context tool and adding them to their vocabulary journal. Finally, the class reviews the definition of paraphrases and discusses in their groups how a paraphrase is different from a summary. Then they reread the letter. Finally, the group paraphrases Hamilton's answer to Burr in modern English by first reading over the modern language rewrite of Burr's letter to Hamilton. then rewriting Hamilton's response as if they were writing to a peer who was demanding a response on the Rewriting Hamilton and Burr's letter handout. To conclude, rewritten letters are shared with the class. The purpose is Hamilton is unapologetic in this letter as he states that he is not responsible for another person's interpretation or inference. Suggested supports would be to discuss the differences between paraphrasing and summarizing and show students examples of each so students understand the differences. The teacher might also utilize the text-dependent questions for this text found on the Section 3 question set for additional enrichment. In Activity 4, students read the excerpts from several letters between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, as well as Aaron Burr's instructions to William P. Van Ness, dated June 22nd and 23rd, 1804. While reading, they underline sentences or phrases that help them identify the causes of the duel and circle unfamiliar words, then use a copy of the word map to define familiar words and add them to their vocabulary journal. Next, students respond to questions on the screen in their learning logs, in addition to writing new or interesting words they encounter in their vocabulary journals, and at least 2 interesting sentences to their mentor sentence journals. These letters detail Burr's increasing anger at Hamilton's refusal to acknowledge or apologize for the comments Cooper described. In the second letter to Alexander Hamilton from Aaron Burr on June 22nd, 1804, Burr states that Hamilton has left him no choice but to challenge him to a duel. Hamilton's response is again unapologetic and states that he is not responsible for another person's opinion. The last letter is instructions Burr gives to his second, William P. Van Ness, and details Burr's reasons for challenging Hamilton to a duel. Suggested supports are depending on the capabilities of the class. The teacher might have students get into groups of 3 and assign each person in the group a specific letter. All right, so that concludes lesson 6 and brings us to our cub. We have students will know what led to Aaron Burr killing Alexander Hamilton. They will understand the interpretation of Miranda's interpretation of the relationship between Hamilton and Burr, and be able to paraphrase Hamilton's answer to Burr in modern English using the Rewriting Hamilton and Burr letters handout to write a response. All right, that's a wrap for this video. I welcome your feedback and look forward to hearing from you either on Twitter, via email, or in the comments. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe so you never have to worry about missing a video. Thanks for watching.